This video is going to show you a solo GM with a unique hunter build submitted to me via my Discord server. If you're somebody that wants to submit a build to me and have your build featured in a video in the future, then the tips for you are this. Join my Discord. There's a dim link build submission page on there where you can submit your dim links. You can do this on YouTube if you want, but making it easier for me would be that all the dim links are in one place, so I can just look on Discord and have a look at the daily dim links. Do you know what I mean? So if you want your build to be featured in video, submit a dim link with a brief description of what you're trying to get at with the dim link. Don't just submit a dim link. Give me a sort of brief description of it, of why you've submitted it, and if there's any unique interactions, because that's mainly what I'm looking for. This is not, you know, so to speak, meta, although what the guy's dim link is meta, but it's unknown, like, for the most part. I bet a lot of hunter mains don't know about this. I didn't know about this interaction, which is why I'm making the video about it. So, at user Bakris on my Discord says, Lord of Wolves is getting a nerf, but it's not too late to give it a final hurrah. Did you know that it has a unique interaction with Mask of Bakris? When you Bakris dodge, it will apply the ×4 surge, usually applied to stasis and arc weapons. Gameplay loop is, stasis and arc weapons are the same, are the name of the game. Stalk and trap your enemies like a true hunter with dust fields and invisibility. When a high health target is on the field, Bakris dodge to put a clone down, and when they're distracted, shred them with Lord of Wolves, leave one enemy alive so they can tell the rest about the beast they saw. This guy is not joking about this. It's unbelievable. Lord of Wolves is broken in the game and he's due to be patched. It's going to get a 30% nerf to the hipfire mode. However, if Mask of Bakris and Lord of Wolves interaction is not touched, Lord of Wolves is still going to be usable on this build after the Lord of Wolves nerf. So this is a huge thing. I don't know if this is meant to be an interaction or not. If it's bugged, I don't know. But Destiny 2 Compendium does state that this is a feature, or that it does work in this way. So let's look at the actual build in depth. So this is part 1 of the video, and then part 2 is the demonstration. It's centered around Mask of Bakris. So you have got your in-game description, but let's use Destiny 2 Compendiums because it gives a little bit more information. It says this: while a stasis super ability is equipped, replaces your class ability with shift, does not replace Acrobat's dodge, performs a quick shift that moves the user up to 10 meters away, rendering them invisible and invulnerable for the duration of their shift. Grants ×4 arc and stasis weapon surge for 11 seconds. Lord of Wolves receives ×4 solar weapon surge for 11 seconds. There you go. Class ability energy is set to 0% whilst weapon surges are active. Yep, that is true. So you're going to have this penalty cooldown on your dodge, but it doesn't matter about that too much. It's still well worth to use it because of the ×4 weapon surge. So Lord of Wolves is going to get that 30% nerf coming up, but ×4 weapon surges at a 25% buff. That's only 5% less than now for Lord of Wolves, without the surges, of course. So you're going to have a similar gameplay loop after the nerf with this build. It won't be quite as much, but it's still going to be incredibly good. Okay, so you've had that information. Now we can talk about the build itself. So Silence and Squall needs to go on for the build for the exotic to work. Gambler's dodge is very useful for this because when we are doing our dodges, we're going to get our melee back, and that's dead important to the build. I don't recommend Marksman, and I don't recommend... You can't use Acrobats with this. I don't really recommend Marksman with this, actually. Better to run Gamblers in this case. Snare Bomb goes on. In my opinion, this is the best melee option in the game right now because of artifact mods. For Transcendence gameplay, for neutral gameplay, for weakening, it's just unbelievable how good Snare Bomb is. Dustfield Grenade goes on. So I have altered this guy's dim link build a little bit just to suit some needs, but the base identity of the build is definitely intact and it's still there. But yeah, Dustfield goes on. Aspects are clone and stylish. Your options with this are limited because with Mask of Bakris, Ascension won't work properly for you, and Winter Shroud won't work very well either. I've tried it. It doesn't work very well. So your only options with this are clone with either Stylish or Gunpowder Gamble. It's up to you between the two. Stylish, it makes more sense because the idea of the build is to melt champ from one to the next to one to the next, to go invis to go melt the next one, go invis to go melt the next one. That's sort of the idea of the run, right, of the build. Fragments are, so Facet of Ruin goes on because it increases shatter damage and ignitions. What exactly is it buffing in my build? It's buffing loads of stuff. If you ever run a prismatic build with stasis and ignitions built into it, you always put Facet of Ruin on. If you don't, you're losing so much because of it. Let's look at what it buffs. It buffs Silence and Squall. It buffs Hellfire Spike because that's stasis and solar. It's going to buff that. And it's going to buff Lord of Wolves because Lord of Wolves scorches in combination with the Scorch with a Hellfire Spike. You're going to reach your ignition quicker and that explosion is going to be bigger. Yeah, so that is buffing a whole host of things there. And Dustveil Grenade as well, not to mention. Transcendence gameplay, so much stuff is going on with this fragment. Faster protection for the free damage resist it offers. You can play more aggressive with this fragment. Facet of Hope is, in my opinion, well worth it. There is that 10-second lockout that you get for no class ability regen, but after that you might be amplified. You might have an overshield. You might be radiant. When all that stuff's going on, you're going to get your Mask of Bakris dodge quicker. So it's worth to do it. Facet of Dawn needs to go on for the build to work. It needs to be on. It's a mandatory that for barrier rounds and damage buff for Lord of Wolves, etc. Facet of Balance, I really like this one for Transcendence neutral gameplay. I just really like it. So I generally try to incorporate this into prismatic builds, and this works for me fantastic. I really like it. Okay, so you've had that information. Now the armor mods, which is less important, but there are a couple of things I've done. I have got Special Finisher on, and that was for science, that to see if Special Finisher stacks with Dreadful Finisher, and I don't know at the time of when I'm talking right now if it actually does. I don't think it does, but I had it on, and you know, at future seasons you would want to run Special Finisher. It's just we're in a unique situation now where we get Special Finisher for free. But yeah, I ran that, but you can run something else. You don't have to run this. Proc Sword for Overshield. I've got a Bomber on. Some mods here to help my weapons. I've got double arc resist concussive dampener on. I've got a momentum transfer mod on and a focus and strike mod on. These two help with the neutral gameplay loop of the build. They do. It's nice. And some siphon mod on and a heavy ammo finder. Going on to weapons, so obviously Lord of Wolves goes on. Imagine I go through all this and I say, oh yeah, I'm not using Lord of Wolves, let's use Nezaric's Whisper. No, Lord of Wolves obviously goes on, right, with Catalyst. You want to use either a Stasis or a Arc LMG. In my case, I went with Watchful Eye just because of the jolt and feedback. That's really good. And I have got Power Resolve on as a secondary option for unstops. Not that I really needed it because the build melts regardless, but I had it on as a secondary option. If I want to stun an unstoppable with this, then I've got that mod on available to me. Right, to round out the build in total, I ran with a Kinetic Tremors high rate of fire weapon. This is going to give me tons of Transcendence energy. It just it tees the build off. If you want to use Tina's with this and go double special, you can do. You can definitely do that. I just wanted to showcase off this weapon. It's really good. All Kinetic Tremor weapons are good in GMs. They're very favourable because of the amount of Transcendence energy you get from Kinetic Tremors from any weapon is amazing. And it just rounds out the build. If you do go double special, remember, right? If you go double special like that, remember, your special ammo bricks are halved between the weapons. This is not too much of a problem, but I'm just saying that is a thing. I like both that, and I also like to run a good primary as well, and that means all special ammo goes all the way into Lord of Wolves, meaning that you can spam more Lord of Wolves if you do primary special heavy, whereas if you go double special heavy, you have to manage the ammo a little bit more. Just bear that in mind. You can do it either or. I just went with this, and it works brilliantly, amazingly. But yeah, that was the build. I've covered everything. Finally, the artifact mods. So the important artifact mods to mention is Heavy Ordnance Regeneration gives me a 3 damage resist. Okay. Defib Blast. When we're stunning a champ, we get a ball charge. Flashover buffs that mod. I've got Dreadful Finisher on. Hold the line's pretty good when you're using an LMG or a glaive. Dialectic will proc because we are still getting bolt charges. Overclock unload's okay. And finally, the goated mod, Maligned Harvest, procs on the Snare Bomb, making Snare Bomb the best melee option in my opinion, just because of this mod with the Overshield. Volatile Marksman, don't worry about that. That wasn't proccing. But yeah, we've got Overload LMG on for the buff as well. That overcharged the gun for the buff. But other than that, that was basically everything that we ran for this. Okay, so in this run, let's evaluate the power of the ×4 weapon surge with Lord of Wolves on this setup and the amount that you can pretty much tank on this build. Bear in mind, there's no frost armor in this kit. I decided I didn't really need it, just how strong I felt. But yeah, we're going to kill the initial champions. You can skip them, but the identity of the video is to see how this build performs. So I don't see any point in skipping any single enemy in this, like champ-wise. So, because that's what the identity of this is. It's a champ killer and a boss damage dealer. So here we go. We're going to debuff with the weakening, get Radiant with Snare Bomb, get a Dustfield Grenade down, and then look at the melt. But something ends up happening weird here. I guess I'll lose my barrier rounds, but then it's still... Something happened there. I don't know what. I can't explain it. We get a Drain Bane. I'm going to skip him entirely. Look at the damage we're doing there. My goal is to finish this guy, this champ, to go invis. I only got so weak because there was a Drain Bane, but look at that. I was able to out-tank it, go invis on that kill, and then do what we did. I use a dodge there with the light shift. Then we go with the Snare Bomb. Then we melt with Lord of Wolves. Look at that melt. The idea is when you do dodge, you'll get your Snare Bomb back. You'll throw the Snare Bomb to get Radiant for barrier rounds for Lord of Wolves and melt the champs back to back. Look at how quick we melted those 3 champs there. Now I'm farming the Transcendence Energy with my Kinetic Tremors Aura Rifle, Chroma Rush. Fantastic Aura Rifle for endgame content. It's a shame there's no Auto Rifle mods, but it doesn't matter that there isn't right now for me because Lord of Wolves will stun barriers. My build will basically stun all the unstops. So champs are covered. Champs are definitely covered. I'm trying to proc the invis there. Unfortunately, it didn't proc, but that's alright because I'm going to go in with my Transcendence now. So look, we go for the Overshield and we're just spamming our abilities. I use a light shift here just a little bit sooner just to make a clone. Remember, you make a clone as well. But look at that melt there, incredibly strong there. Yeah, melt that barrier champ down, and then we're going to go to the cave area, and then just keep going. Still got my Transcendence. Look at this. That's with Facet Balance gameplay. Yeah, just enhances things a little bit when you're doing back-to-back light and dark energy sort of kills. Look, you can get Transcendence energy off the boss. I didn't know that. I've just learned something new. Did you see that? Got a little bit of Transcendence. So, the defending the zone, I'm going to save super and just use LMG to just basically kill the dogs and the gladiators. I can shift dodge at any point, of course, but I'm probably going to save that for the unstoppable champs because, that's when you want to use it on champs. I was contemplating what I was going to do. I was wanting to save my super for the next round, but I was like, yeah, what the hell, we'll just super here. End up supering, then I'm just going to melt with Lord of Wolves while they're getting stunned via Silence and Squall. Look at the damage from range even. And I'm just going to cap the plate. The champ ends up dying to my Silence and Squall anyways. May I remind people there's no Stasis Surge on. Imagine there was. There's no Solar Surge neither. We haven't had Solar Surge since October the 1st, 2024. We're now May 2025. We have not had Solar Surge. Solar Surge loyalists are in a real bad way, people. They're in a real bad way. They're looking for anything they can do to get Solar Surge. Those Solar Surge loyalists, I feel sorry for them. October 1st, I looked into it. Crazy amount of time to go without Solar Surge. It's alright though. This build cooks got ×4 weapon surge regardless. So, I'm going to shoot the boss. That spawns in the ads quicker. The next unstop phase, it spawns it in. That's why we shoot the boss. It's a trick that. We've been doing that for a long time. Just thought I'd point out. Okay, I come back here. I'm going to get a Dustfield down. And then I'm going to pop my Transcendence. So, let's evaluate the gameplay of the melt. Yep, we melt this unstop here. We've got Overshield to stay tanky. just melting down these unstops and barriers. And then what I'm going to do is just melt down the rest of the room in combination with my setup there. Really good. This does add a lot of utility to the Hunter with Transcendence gameplay. Getting those overshields at a big difference. I know we've got Inmost Light Cryo class item, and I do play with that build, make no mistake, yeah? You know, but I often try to showcase things in videos that aren't really well known to bring them to the front light. But I think with the overshield, it adds so much utility with Transcendence gameplay on a Hunter. It's a massive gain, this. I wish Snare Bomb did give an overshield base without the artifact mod. That would be a huge buff. I hope they would do that at a later season, because that would really enhance the Hunter with Snare Bomb gameplay. Right now it's doing it because of the artifact mod, but yeah, it would be really good if we had this all the time. Look at this melt here. So I use Snare Bomb, I do my light dodge, and then I just go in hip fire with the Lord of Wolves, and it just obliterates champions. But we need to pre-plan. Yes, we can melt champs, but we need to think about the next couple of champs. What's my ability energy like? Have I got a Snare Bomb? Have I got a Dustfield? Have I got Transcendence? And have I got a Super? I've got all those things just about. So I'll do Snare Bomb, Dustfield, then I'll do a Super. Unfortunately, the Barrier Champ slightly jumps out of my Santa Squad, so that's fine. I cut my losses, then I do my Transcendence, and here we go. Here we go, where we're going to just melt everything. Just melt this barrier champ here. Then we've got, we're looking for the next barrier. Then we do our dodge there, and then just obliterate the champs. We've still got Transcendence, so I do the same thing again. The times for weapon surge comes in clutch for the boss fight. You just increase the damage. I pick up the relic that spawns in the next barrier champ. That's what I'm doing there. Absolutely melts. Then we go in Viz, pick up the orbs. This is playing real aggressive, this. Yeah, because there's loads of ads up, but we're just skipping. We're skipping and melting the champs because we're on a champ delete build. We get weak here. I should be throwing my smoke bomb. I guess I go in Viz there. Remember, you will go in Viz off Lord of Wolves because it's scorched targets. People often forget that it's scorched targets. So everyone always thinks, oh, Lord of Wolves, it does massive damage. Yeah, but remember, it's scorched targets. Therefore, you can play into that by going in Viz after a Lord of Wolves champ kill, which is huge. So always start an engagement with a champ with a debuff, then you dodge, and then you just melt that way whilst having... Not to mention you've got a clone up. That's going to distract all the enemies and the champs. So it means you can sort of really get up in the face of champs and just melt them down because of this. So the clone tech just adds to it because you will get a clone when you do a light shift dodge. So we are layering this build. Okay, so that's the entire room clean for all champs because all the champs will push you at the back of the map. Well, we cleaned them out. And now we can just dunk our relic. Got amplified, so got speed booster. And another thing to mention is if you do get weak, I'm just going to light shift dodge past these ads. But what I will say is, if you're ever 5% HP, shields are broken. If you're about to die, the light shift dodge acts as a second way to not die. You can immediately use it as a panic button and not die because you're invulnerable. You get invulnerable frames. As far as I understand it, when you do a light shift dodge, you're invulnerable for that amount of time. That portion of time when you do the dodge, you sort of go in Viz and then you sort of reappear to another area. During that time, you cannot die to most things. There might be some clauses with it where if a boss stomps you mid-shift dodge, you die. I don't know the exact details on that because I haven't used a lot of Mask of Bakris for the last 18 months. I was using Mask of Bakris. Last time I properly used it was Beyond Light days, to be honest. And then I used it briefly again a year or two after that and realised Mask of Bakris was never worth it. But at some point, whenever this happened, this Lord of Wolves thing, I don't know when it happened and the interaction existed in the game, but whenever that did, that's when the Mask of Bakris playback loop was worth it. Whenever that happened, I don't know. We would need a D2 librarian to figure that out. I'm only aware of it just this week. Let me know how many hunter mains knew about this. I'm betting most hunter mains didn't know about this. You know, because it specifically says arc and stasis. It doesn't say solar. It says arc and stasis. So why would we believe to think that it would work with Lot of Wolves in this way? You wouldn't. Unless you went on D2 Compendium or you read a Reddit post, then fair enough. I get a double damage bonus on the floor. Let's check damage for this. Okay, now I'm going to light shift dodge, ×4 weapon surge, plus silence and squall. Massive damage. We haven't popped Transcendence yet, and I'm gonna. That's exactly what I'm going to do. There we go. Pop my Transcendence. We go in. We keep spamming my Snare Bomb for Overshield and Hellfire Grenade to keep igniting that boss. Weed Facet of Ruins going to do massive damage. Plus, we can light shift dodge and do the massive damage. Look at this chunk here. Look at the chunk. The game didn't register the damage I did. Did you see that? The game couldn't keep up with it. It was really good damage. I get a Hypernova Bane in mid. I'm going to cap middle plate because I've got no Transcendence and I've got no super. And the middle plate's the easiest to cap if you don't have your abilities. So I'm going to cap middle plate. But look, I'm just about capping it anyways. Yeah? The ads don't get here quick enough. Well, they do. They do actually. But then I light shift dodge, do a Snare Bomb to blind. And then I just go in with Lot of Wolves. Just melt them all down. Can play real aggressive with this build, and the sky's the limit with this build. The higher your skill ceiling with the Prismatic Hunter, the only better that this build will get. So highly skilled Prismatic Hunters, which there are some out there, I've seen them. Those types of players are going to take massive benefits from this build. Huge. Sky's limit with it. Remember, this is the first day of me ever playing with this build, so remember that. I feel as though, you know, I didn't build enough justice in this run though, to say, look at this gameplay, look at how good it's doing, you know. But what we need to recognize as well is when you're playing with a certain build, the longer practice you get with that build, the more you can micromanage on how good you actually start to get with that build. Yeah, think of it as like skill points towards a build, and the longer that you play with that, the better you get. There's a high skill ceiling to this build. Don't get me wrong, for players just starting to play with it, play around with it, you'll have a lot of success with it, but there might be times where you also die. That's why Snare Bomb comes on for the Overshield, and you need to learn to use that with the Overshield so that you don't die up close and that you can simulate this highly aggressive gameplay where you're playing up close. But I'm going to use a Transcendence for all the gladiators. That's exactly what I'm doing here. Just spamming my abilities, essentially. I can light shift dodge as well, but right now, as I say, I'm starting to strategize the gladiators and the dogs, and then I'm going to decide which plate I'm going for next. Because I've capped middle plate. We can do some manipulations with ads. I'm going to decide to cap left plate because you can gather the ads to right. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, look. So look, that gathers all the ads to the right side, and then it gives you an additional amount of time to cap the plate on left. You can also do that for mid, but I've already capped mid. Okay, so now I'm going to start LMGing the ads. If I've done everything right, I shouldn't need to kill many more ads, and I'll cap this plate for free by simply just manipulating the ads like that. And we're basically capped at this point. I'm bringing out my ghost to see if it caps the plate quicker. Hard to explain what I'm trying to do. If anybody remembers Wellspring and anyone remembers Esso when he soloed Wellspring, he used the ghost to cap the points faster. I know it's a long time ago. We're dating back 3 years. But ever since then, it's something that I have tried to use. Like on certain points where you want to cap a plate, bringing out your ghost, there's a theory that your ghost counts as a second guardian, so it caps the plate quicker. Not just this plate, I'm on about plates in Destiny 2 in general. And that was a thing. Wellspring, 6-man mode, SO soloing it, remember? He used his ghost to cap the zones quicker. I'm just saying I have a theory, I think it works in this as well. I don't know for sure, but I was trying it regardless. I'm just explaining what I was doing. Okay, so now I'm clean up phase. Let's think ability check. Ammo check. I'm full on Lord of Wolves. I'm low on heavy ammo because I've spammed it. I've got super and I've just about got my Transcendence energy. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to lead with a super here. I'm going to get my Transcendence. Then I'm going to pop it. Go for the overshield. There's some adds to my left. And I'm just going to spam my abilities and Lord of Wolves with the light shift to get the damage bonus, the ×4 buff. So just look at that amount of damage. And the fact that we can just play up so close like this. Let's pay attention to super energy as well, because this run's about to finish. And I believe I'm going to get all my stuff back. So let's pay attention to ability energy. Transcendence energy, look at that. Look at my super, we're getting to half energy. I'm going to start clearing out some of these adds. I've got my light, I need now dark. This is where KT comes in, Kinetic Tremors. I've spammed my abilities. I haven't got Sands as well. Haven't got Dust Field right now at this moment. So I'm like, right, let's whip out Kinetic Tremors and farm up Darkness Energy. That's why this weapon is on. For stuff like this. Tina's would do the job as well. But I've already explained the differences between double special and then primary special heavy loadouts. I've already explained that. But what I'm doing here exactly is farming super energy and Transcendence energy. Look, I get my stuff. So now I'm going to pop a Dust Field in middle first to get benefits out of that. Then I'm going to use a Transcendence and then go in. Light shift dodge here. Just micromanaging the adds though as well. We've just about got at my super as well. Look at the boss's health. So we're melting him. It's just incredible, this build. You can play so aggressive with it. So Hunter Mains, I highly recommend that you try this build out now before Lord of Wolves gets nerfed. And when Lord of Wolves does get nerfed, try this out again because it should still work, providing that they don't nerf this. But that was the build on this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.